Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about as we kick it off. Let's first talk about what President Biden administration is doing around the latest round of student loan debt as he cancels more debt for public service workers. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Also, we're going to be checking in with Dr. Barbara Logan of Teaching for America to talk about how a latest TFA report shows that if you have more diversity in the classroom, it leads to better educational outcomes. We'll have that conversation. Also, let's talk about what is happening in the city of Detroit as one teacher of the month has been fired from her job simply because she was a rapper. I'm gonna share with you the latest details of that and a little part of her video. And later on, we'll talk about Carlee Russell. This is the young woman that faked her abduction, how she has officially pled guilty, but now her situation may lead to stiffer penalties for those who are falsifying police reports. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii, and I'm so happy that you're joining us here today. It is officially March the 22nd, folks, and we are very excited about the conversations we got lined up for you. Now, we are streaming on a number of different platforms. First and foremost, check us out on our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. Do your due diligence. Check us out on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on all social media, and certainly we ask for your support, your financial support to help us in this digital space that we find ourselves in as we are embarking upon really creating a different set of conversations about issues and topics affecting Black America. So your support means a world of difference, and we thank you for all of those who have already supported to us here on Black Star Network. We're also streaming on some Amazon platforms. You can find us on Amazon TV on your Amazon News on your Fire TV. Thank you so much, Amazon, for your support. Also, make sure you find us on Amazon Prime Video, folks. That's right. Find us on the Prime Video app under Live TV, The News, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, The News. We're also on the Freevee Network, where you can find us on now under News, and check us out there at Black Star Network, as well as Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or find us under Live TV, The News, and Opinion. All right, folks, let's jump into the conversations. It is Friday, and I'm joined by my two sisters who are doing a dynamic job in their respective fields, doing good for the culture. First and foremost, we are joined by my sister, Kimberly Morrow, who is a parent and educational activist. She's also the principal of the Doris L. Morrow Online Academy. She's doing some fantastic work, making sure that we're understanding education from a different paradigm. So my sister, Kimberly, welcome again to the culture. Always happy to have you.
Hello, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And we're joined by my sister, Corinna Denise, who is a college admissions advisor, as well as political. And also she is doing some work in advocating for better education and a whole lot of other issues. So my sister, Corinna, thank you so much for joining us once again. How are you this afternoon?
Peace. Happy Friday. Glad
happy Friday
with you guys today.
That's right. That's right. Now, look, we all got shirts that says something on it.
Yes.
We do. So mine say Black King, because that's who I am. I'm a Black King. What does yours say, Corinna? Black colleges matter? There we go.
It's quite appropriate considering what we saw just happen this week in Tennessee and what we might see is about to happen. Oh, also in Mississippi. You know, we got our HBCUs are online, y'all. So yeah, just wanted to bring awareness to that today.
There it is right there. Black colleges matter. All right, Kimberly, what's your shirt say?
Says empowering children is the way to go.
Come on, there it is right there, y'all. There it is right there. Empowering children is the way to go. All right, let's talk a little bit about the churn, the children. Well, let's talk about college students, which all of us have a great love and respect for. College students today, it has been announced that President Biden has decided to move forward on another set of rounds. Not really about college students, but he has decided to cancel the debt of many public service workers, nearly 80,000 public service workers. We're talking about teachers, firefighters, police officers, folks that are doing that great work, civil servants. He's decided to move forward in canceling their student loan debt. Big amount of money, talking about $6 billion. Kimberly, what's your take on this?
I think this is a fantastic strategy, re-election strategy. Because I read a couple of different data points. One in Forbes, it said a little over 50% of the US population had college degrees. That was as of 2021. And then another one I read said 37% of the US population has college degrees, which is still a significant number. So that means that the audience that needs to hear this will be hearing this. It's a significant number of people that are being impacted by this. So I think it's a great move on his part.
It is. And I want to share with you what the president had to say. Let's go to quote 2, please, Lise, as we talk about this. Here's what the president said. Nearly 80,000 public service workers, including teachers and nurses and firefighters, will have roughly $6 billion in debt in student loan forgiveness Thursday. Now, look at this second quote. These public service workers have dedicated their careers to serving their communities, but because of past administrative failures, never got the relief they were entitled to under the law. Because of the fixes my administration has made, we have now canceled student debt for over 70,000 people, public service workers, compared to only about 7,000 public service borrowers ever receiving forgiveness prior to my administration. Why?
And remember, that was one of his campaign promises.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he's showing us that he's fulfilling his campaign promise. So, and the timing is perfect. We're coming upon this election in a few months. So this is great. This is good news on his part. I'm glad he did it.
And Corinna, is it really, I mean, and I agree with Kimberly on this, that it is about the timing of everything. But I kind of believe that he still would have done it, even if this was a quote unquote off year for the presidential campaign, just because was his campaign promise. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, no, I agree. I think the timing of it is just ironic. I mean, we know that the Supreme Court initially struck down his initial plan to kind of cancel a significant amount of student debt for everyone. But when that happened, the administration, they were very smart. They kind of said, okay, well, what can we do? So to, reference what you just showed, the quote by the president mentioned that, in the past, these are people who should have even had this debt relief because they're public service workers, and they did not. So it looks like they went in there to take care of a lot of the, end quote, past administrative failures. And now those folks have relief. So promise made, promise kept. I think the next step we got to look forward to, because we are in an election year, what I would like to say is that we got to make sure that they can continue to do this work and perhaps maybe eliminate more debt where it's for people who aren't just public service workers. But how does that happen? Basically, when SCOTUS struck down Biden's initial plan, they basically said, well, you know what, Congress would have to pass legislation to bring this to life. So we need to make sure that Democrats get a majority back and that the Senate can increase their Dem majority so that they could get that legislation to President Biden's desk. But yeah,
absolutely. This is definitely a good thing. And I know people might have some issues with the president, but let me just tell you, this helps a lot of people out. This is a lot of money that is on the table. And when you're talking about moving further along, especially for our civil servants, Kimberly and Corinna, they aren't paid like goo gobs of money. You're talking about firefighters and police officers and things. Depending on the states, we might say, oh, that's comparable. But at the end of the day, based on what they do, they save lives. They go into burning buildings. They go into dangerous situations. And the last thing they need to be worried about is after they put in their time in to save other people's lives, that oh my gosh, they got to deal with debt. And this is good. This is really, really good. So I'm happy.
Quickly, Farajii, they were essential workers per se, right? In the height of a pandemic.
Yeah.
Responders, firefighters, all these folks. So if anyone should definitely, and of course we all deserve some student debt. I don't want to just put anyone into a category, but if we have the opportunity to at least relieve those folks who took care of us during the pandemic, then yeah, I'm all for it.
Absolutely, all for it. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's check in with Dr. Barbara Logan of the Teach for America, as we're talking about a new report from TFA that says that if there's more diverse classrooms, that it will lead to better educational outcomes. We'll have that conversation up next, so stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. I'm joined by my two sisters, Kimberly Morrow, who is a parent and educational advocate, as well as the principal of the Dorsey Morrow Online Academy. We're also joined by my sister, Corinna Denise, college admissions advisor as well. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Big shout out to the Online Culture Crew. I didn't even say a big shout out to them in the beginning. Big shout out to the crew. Big shout out, crew. There we go. Y'all checking this out on Big Brother Roland Martin's social media, on his YouTube page and his Facebook page and on the X platform. So big shout out to all of the folks in the crew. Let's do this. While we're having this conversation, because, we're talking about education, talking about student loan debt, there is another conversation about, improving the classroom. And we have a very special guest I want to bring on in just a moment, but I wanted to get your take on this, both ladies. First, Kimberly, starting with you, as we're talking about improving better educational outcomes, or having those classroom metrics really being met by bringing more diverse voices into the classroom. How important is that? As one who has worked in the classroom, as one who has served as an administrator, you are a principal of an online academy. How important is it for that diversity to be present for students?
Farajii, it's important not only for the students, Black and brown children who are in the classroom, but for all of the children in the classroom. The school where I was an assistant principal, actually that entire school district, but the particular high school where I was an assistant principal, there were only 3 Black people. 2 were male teachers, and the 3rd was me, who was the assistant principal.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. And there was about 2,000 students at the school. And I think the population of Black students was about 13 or 10%. Something, it is a small number. And then the population of Latino students was a little higher than that, maybe about 30%. But I said that to say that it's important in a lot of schools this is not in a city, I would call it a rural area. In the rural areas of major cities or states, the numbers are significantly lower because you tend to have African-American teachers in the city. I see it here in LA, I see lots of Black and Latino teachers. But when you move out of the city of Los Angeles and you start going to these other major cities or even smaller towns, the numbers of Black and Latino teachers, those numbers decrease. And
absolutely,
it's just as important to have them in those schools as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me bring in our very special guest, Dr. Barbara Logan Smith, who is joining us. She serves as the Chief of Equity and Belonging for Teach for America. And Dr. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us here on The Culture. I put you on The Culture when you have 2 dynamic women, Black women, who are both in the educational field. So this should be a very, very exciting conversation. But Dr. Barbara, thank you for joining us. Talk to us about the role that you first played for Teach for America. What does it mean to be Chief of Equity and Belonging?
I am so excited to be here. Everything that you all are talking about is so aligned with what I know and understand about this field. And so when I think about my work at Teach for America, my responsibility is really making sure that there is equity. People get that word confused a lot. In essence, what it means is, how are we considering each person who's walking into the space and what they need in order to be set up to thrive in the space, whether that is the space of being on staff or the space of being in our classrooms or the space of being learners in our classroom. How are we actually considering who people are and what they need in order to thrive in this space, and not saying everybody's going to get exactly the same thing, because everybody doesn't need exactly the same thing. And the belonging piece is really critically important. Folks think belonging is a new idea. The truth of the matter is belonging is a sociological, neurological, biological need that every human being has. And with it, you can have the experience of feeling safe enough to engage in ways that actually allow you to thrive and allow you to help create a world better than the one each of us found as we entered into this one.
No, that's dope.
I love that.
That's dope. Why it sound like, Dr. Barbara, you were doing an interview with us? Like, man, you're trying to get the job since you already got the job.
That's how you keep the job. You stay clear about what the job is.
You already got the job. I hear that. Doc, when we're talking about this level of equity, you know, as you heard Sister Kimberly talking about just the small number of Black male teachers in the classroom and just the lack of diversity. It's like her and I, we're both in Los Angeles. So we're seeing all of these dynamics kind of playing out. What is the role, or rather, what is the stance of Teach for America in terms of trying to change the dynamics? Is it to get more Black men into the classroom? Is it to get more Latinos into the classroom, get more Black folks in the classroom? What would you say are some of the priorities right now for equity and belonging?
I would say that at Teach for America, what we're just super clear about is that you actually need a population of folks teaching our children that reflect the children themselves, as well as other folks who are deeply involved and invested in leading in ways that create the kind of equity I was speaking about a moment ago. To Kimberly's point, when you look across the country, more than 50% of the children are children of color. Less than 20, sometimes up to 21% of the teachers are actually people of color. And so what we are committed to at Teach for America is finding exceptional leaders who love the idea of educational equity and excellence and want to fight for that every single day because all of our children deserve it. But for the last decade, we've also been super clear that force that we're bringing has to be incredibly diverse. And I'm excited to tell you, Teach for America is one of the largest providers of racially and ethnically diverse teachers across this country. We're also one of the largest providers of diverse STEM teachers across this country. When you look across the country, 50% kids of color, 20% teachers of color. Teach for America's numbers, our current core, more than 50% folks of color. Our current core, folks that are recruited from all over the country, and in particular recruited from HBCUs, because we know that if you find that population, you're going to get this really important 4-pack. I don't know if you've heard about this 4-pack of benefits, but they represent representation. So kids actually look across the classroom and many of them are able to find someone that looks like them, that lets them feel like they belong, like they can be safe, like they can actually excel in this place because they're not just in a place where folks don't look like them. It gets you rigor. You actually find that folks are holding higher standards for our babies and they are meeting and exceeding them. It gets you rapport. These young people actually experience a situation where they're in the right kind of relationship, and you get less discipline referrals. You get less expulsions for students. You get more involvement and engagement. You get parental engagement, attendance, all of those things come. And when those things come, you also get results. The last part of the 4-pack. So you got representation, you've got rigor, you've got results, you've got rapport, and that actually sets our kids on the trajectory they deserve to be on to help co-create a better future than they've entered into.
There it is. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's get into more conversation as we check in with Dr. Barbara Logan-Smith from Teach for America. She serves as the Chief of Equity and Belonging. We got my sister Kimberly Morrow. We got Corinna Denise, and of course, we got you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, you're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037- 0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sisters, Kimberly Morrow, as well as Corinna Denise, as we check in with Dr. Barbara Logan Smith, who serves as the Chief of Equity and Belonging for Teach for America, talking a little bit about some of the challenges and some of the good things that are happening right now. But unfortunately, there are a lot of challenges that are on the table that Dr. Barbara is trying to overcome. And she's trying to do the great work of getting more diverse classrooms. And this is based on a new report from TFA saying that if there's more diversity in the classrooms, there are better educational outcomes. And so we're talking a little bit about that today. Dr. Barbara, I want to get your take on how Teach for America is moving and responding to this ongoing, I would say, onslaught of attack against everything from Black history to banning books and everything. How is TFA moving in those spaces, especially in states that are Republican controlled? And I know some people say, oh, that's politicizing, but hey, I didn't make it political. They did, right? But how is TFA responding to that? And then, Corinna, I want to get your take on that as well. But how is that happening from a TFA point of view, Doc?
I'll say a couple different things here. One, we are really making sure that we don't lose track of keeping the main thing. We can have a conversation about what books kids can read when you've actually ensured that all our kids can read. We can have a conversation about whether or not this should or shouldn't be accessible when you've actually done the real work to make sure every single child in each of our schools and school communities has the skills to read, to comprehend, to deeply understand, to discern, and to do the research that allows them to make decisions about where we are in this country, how we got here, and what's actually going to be required to move us forward. So first thing, we keep the main thing. Second, really do believe that children need an opportunity to have an experience of learning that is rooted in the truth, that is rooted in culturally relevant pedagogy and practices that allow them to feel seen, to feel like the conversation is relevant and relative to their experiences, and that actually sets them up to understand the world as it is. Both the things that we have been up to in this country that have been great and the things that have been greatly problematic for our people. And so we believe in actually setting ourselves up to have kids get access to real rigorous content that is reflective of the world and that sets them up to understand then and now how we got here and what it's going to take to get to a place where equity and excellence can coexist for every single person who is a part of this community.
Absolutely. Corinna, what's your take on that?
Oh, yeah, I definitely want to, I resonate with your sentiments just now, Dr. Logan, especially because the piece about, it's one thing that they're banning books and redesigning and restructuring different curriculums. But the question is, do we actually even have the resources to begin with? And what I mean by that is, I've been in a position on multiple occasions where, I'm spending out of my own pocket because I just want my kids to have, right? I'm fighting with administration to kind of have a budget for certain things I would like to do with my students. So, I think that's what you're speaking to when you're saying we have to make sure that the main thing, which is the foundational aspect of it all, works. Because it's one thing to say we're going to ban the books, but our kids reading at grade level. And we see, more often than not, especially with this recent pandemic, that a lot of them are behind. So, but one thing I do want to ask you about, considering this report, I've always noticed in every school I've worked in, there is a large deficit in male teachers and specifically Black male teachers. And just based on you placing teachers with different schools throughout the country for Teach for America, can you just share a little bit about what might be a common denominator you're coming across as to why that particular group, Black men, are less in the classroom or even in administration across our schools in general?
I deeply appreciate this question. I taught myself in Milwaukee Public Schools before working with schools and school districts across the country. And this trend has just been in place for a really long time. And we can go all the way back to the number of teachers who got displaced at the time of Brown versus the Board of Education, because there was a whole thing then when there used to be a lot more teachers of color, Black teachers in particular, or we can come up to today where there are just a number of barriers that get in the way. The stats on this are staggering. Nationally, 2% of teachers are Black men. And in the work that we've been up to over the last decade at Teach for America, I'm excited to say that 24.75% of our teachers that we bring this current year are actually Black men. So we've been up to this diversity thing and really serious and focused on it. And what we find are about 4 different things. One, the teaching profession overall, all the people who are out there doing this work with our babies, are situated to have low pay that doesn't actually set them up to build quality lives for themselves while they're trying to build that for our children. And so that's one of the things that we find as a barrier. Another barrier is that people see a Black male teacher coming and think, aha, this is the solution to any and every discipline problem that happens in this school. And so then investing in them and helping them build their craft, you find them dealing with unlimited numbers of behavior problems and challenges and being asked to take on more of that work and less of the teaching. And it actually ends up with a heavier emotional tax, a larger allostatic load, which is like the stress impact on the body. They end up in this space where they just end up doing a job that is above and beyond the job anybody else is being asked to do. And that is incredibly complicated. And then to your point, they end up getting passed up for opportunities for greater levels of leadership and can actually be pigeonholed into this one particular disciplinarian kind of role, all of which makes it hard. And then there are just the things that are hard about teaching in general, which is in many cases, we have not created the working conditions for our educators to thrive. They are being asked before and after the pandemic to do more and more with less and less. And that is complicated in a way that takes them out of the game.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, Dr. Barber, that you would think like a profession such as education and teaching, not to say that they should be, open to any and everybody, but they should be a little bit more lenient. And it's wild because I read stories, and we talk about it here on the show, of various teachers who get into situations, and you like, well, how did the district allow this to happen? And it's like, some districts are very strict, other districts are super lackadaisical, and there seems to be no consistency across, in determining who goes into the classroom and who doesn't go into the classroom. I know we got like 30 seconds before we take our next pause, but do you want to speak to that?
What I would say is that we're all finding ourselves in incredibly rigorous conditions. And because I worked and led in Mississippi and Arkansas, leading Teach for America as the executive director, what I know is that the teacher shortages that used to just be in some of our most rural places are spread all over the place. And so we find ourselves with incredible need and incredible gaps in who is ready. And people like us are working alongside lots of other folks to figure out how do we widen this pipeline.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to take another quick pause. Dr. Barber, if you can hold on just for a few more moments, I want to get your take on another issue that we're finding very, very common, especially among teachers. So we want to try and get your take on that and get some final remarks from you. Folks, we've been checking in with Dr. Barbara Logan of Teach for America, Chief of Equity and Belonging. Still got my sisters, Kimberly Morrow and Corinna Denise. And of course, I got you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sisters, Kimberly Morrow, Corinne, and Denise, as we are joined by our very special guest, Dr. Barbara Logan, Chief of Equity and Belonging, for Teach for America, and talking to her just about some of the things and some of the issues, and more importantly, where Teach for America stands on some of these issues. Dr. Barbara, I wanted to kind of get your take, because this has always been a part of the conversation. Every time Kimberly and Corinne and I, we get together, we always talking about money, putting the money on the table. And I think it's crazy that in 2024, that we're hearing more and more stories of teachers doing things, and this is going to be a part of our next segment, actually. Teachers who have decided that the money that they're being paid for their time, for their efforts, for all of that they put into the classroom, it's not a livable wage. It's not enough to keep up with the cost of living, and especially in a lot of these major big cities. And so they're deciding to do outside work that is oftentimes scrutinized, and they are vilified because they're just trying to make a living. They're just trying to earn. So I wanted to kind of get your take on where TFA stands on this issue. Is TFA advocating for more money to be paid to teachers across the country? How do we have this conversation? How do we institutionalize it and make this discussion about paying teachers more money a real policy, not just something that we talk about in these conversations, but making it real? What's going on with that?
So I'm glad you're raising this. There's so much here. When I started teaching in Milwaukee Public Schools in the early 1990s, my entire salary was $24,413.
Wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute, hold up.
It's a little better than that now, but in the 90s, $24,413 was.
Kimberly, she's giving me a headache. Dr. Barbara's giving me a headache.
Reality check.
I'm sorry, doctor. Can I say this?
Please.
Farajii, she's not lying. When I first started teaching in 1996 in Charlotte, North Carolina, my first check that I received was $1,200 for the month. For the month. This is after I already had my master's degree. And I thought to myself, because I think I've told you before, I started my teaching career a little late. I had been from LA. I had worked at a law firm in LA as a file clerk. I made more money when I was a file clerk with no degree than when I became a teacher with a master's degree. So she is not telling you anything that is untrue.
I know she's not. I know she's not, Kimberly. It's just the simple fact that now you brought this other element into it. You have a master's degree. It takes years to go to school, put all this time in. You got dissertations. You got to make all these things. You got all this time that you got to put into the classroom, and then you're making less than people who don't have master's degrees. Yeah. And Dr. Barbara, I'm wondering to myself, like, we can talk about education in this country all we want. We can say that the children are the future, like the old song says, right? We can say all of that. But guess what? We don't put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah.
We do not pay. We talk about teaching. Like one of our crew members said it, and I agree. He said, I think you don't like my music. He said, teaching is one of the most noblest professions that you can ever do. Absolutely.
We are. But
guess what?
Heroes.
And you can't tell me in America, you can't say in America that teaching is a priority when teachers are getting less than $50,000 in major states, but athletes who work 4 months a year.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you this, Teach for America cares a lot about this issue. We really do believe the compensation structure has to be fundamentally different than it has been for all teachers. And what we understand is that that's especially true for folks whose families do not have generational wealth that you're asking to step into the classroom. And so if you're asking folks to do that, you have to have a different structure for pay. And we have invested time and resources to find about $16 million that we offer to people in the form of grants and stipends to support them in coming into this. But we also work alongside lots of people nationally and in each of the local regions where we are to help folks find new and different avenues to create a different kind of compensation system, because we cannot ask people to do what was already named, right? It's not even just that you are using that salary to try to live. you're also using that salary to try to buttress for your classroom things that you don't have. And so we have to pay people differently as they come into this incredibly noble and incredibly important profession, such that it can be a livable wage. And there are communities that are trying to figure out how to not even get to 50,000, but how to make sure every single person who's teaching actually has $100,000 a year. So there are districts and communities and groups and organizations like Teach for America working to try to create a reality where folks actually are compensated in ways that create livable wages and don't require an additional job on a job that already takes more than 8 hours a single day.
Right. Now, let me just throw this out there just for transparency, Corinna and Kimberly. I do know teachers who have made up to close to $100,000 in the classroom, but they have attained certain levels of certification. They have different certification levels and ranks and everything. I do know that. I know one teacher, she made $96,000 and she teaches in the classroom, right? So those things are happening, but it's not district by district. It's not across the board. Right. And when teachers find themselves in those situations where, the district gets mad at them for having outside jobs and all of those things, does TFA, as your job as chief of equity and belonging, do you feel compelled to say, you know what, we need to stand up for these teachers? Because guess what? They wouldn't have to do this outside job. They wouldn't have to be on OnlyFans if they were getting some money.
I was like, I bet he's going to reference OnlyFans. I bet before the question is over, we're going to go to OnlyFans. I'll say this, Farajii. I'll say this. We try to make sure people really do understand what the policies and procedures are within every district, such that folks don't find themselves in a place where they've made a set of choices because they're trying to live that actually don't enable them to be able to show up with and for kids. And so we try to be proactive on the front end. How do we help you find other opportunities, other ways of doing this work and having the compensation that you need, such that you don't find yourself in between a rock and a really hard choice that take you away from actually being able to serve our students in our communities.
Absolutely. All right, Janae said what TFA uncovered, but I don't think resolved, is how hard it is to teach. TFA took a business corporate model, but outside of pay, it didn't really translate well in the classroom. What's your take on that, Doc?
So I appreciate this question. We are always in the conversation about where we've been and what we figured out. We are super clear now that part of what also has to be true is that we've got to support the whole person who is coming into teaching. And I get why the reference to a business model, but the truth of the matter is I was with a set of folks today gathered in Chicago from all over the country in one of our conferences for our teachers, the people who are going to train and support our teachers. We are talking about wellness. We are talking about how to create communities of belonging, not only for the kids, but also for the teachers. We are talking about what it looks like to make sure folks really do understand how to teach and how to do it well. We are making sure that there's technology available to support folks, as well as coaches who show up in their classrooms and support their learning and their leadership. And so we have a really well-rounded process. Today, some folks are referencing things that might have been a part of our old ways of working. But today, if you become a part of Teach for America, you're going to be surrounded by a network, 70,000 strong nearly, and you're going to be surrounded by a set of supports that help you financially, as well as academically, as well as socially, to do this thing and do it well for kids.
I hear you. Brother Damon Blissett, one of our great culture crew members, he said, Farajii, I have been asked many times to get into teaching. There is no money there. I'm not switching from engineering to teaching.
I get it. But here's the thing.
Hey, look, let me just say, Brother Damon and Dr. Barbara, people ask me all the time, Farajii, you should teach about communication and media. And I'm like, I should. Are they going to pay me?
If I may, I would just like to mention, because when I was in the classroom, this would always be something that would come up with my students. As soon as they hear the word teacher, they usually equate that with their teaching environment. Yes. And at the end of the day, we do have to remember that everything does start with education. So Brother Damon, you're an engineer. I would imagine maybe too, you're teaching future engineers in a college setting how to be engineers, right? It doesn't necessarily always look like secondary education, whether it's K-5, middle school, or then high school, right? There's variations to this thing. But I think for our conversation today, it sounds like we're talking specifically for K through 12, where unfortunately, yes, teachers have always been the unsung heroes. The salary is definitely a turnoff. And, I personally have always had to supplement my income when I was working in schools. So, realistically, it's like you got to live. And I think we do have a lot of people who want to teach and to do all the things, but we just don't have the support. Personally, and I would love to hear Doc's take on this quickly. At the very, 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 very least, in my view, I think starting salary for teachers should be at least $65,000 a year, at the very least.
That sounds doable, Doc. What's your take?
I think that works, and I think that what becomes really interesting, because we're in a model that's across the country, there are places where that would actually be a real functional livable wage, and there are a couple places where you'd still be trying to figure out what else you need to do to supplement. And so, but I am aligned with this idea of how do we figure out what it actually takes to have a livable wage in all the different places across this country and make sure teachers have that. And I think in some cases, $65,000 is a good place to start. And in other places, we'd still need to be thinking about, is that actually the amount of money that allows them to live, to be able to have the things that they need, some of the things that they want, and to be able to show up in classrooms, not worried about the ways in which they're going to take care of themselves as they try to help us take care of our kids.
Really quickly, Doc, what's your take on administration in terms of how administrators are being paid? And this is no shade on any administrators, but, it's something that people have talked about this in my hometown of Baltimore all the time, how the CEO of the Baltimore City school system, she gets paid over $400,000 if you include bonuses and all of those things. But what's your take on it? Is the model for payment or compensation in that regard too top heavy? Are we putting more money back into the administrators, whereas we should be putting it to the teachers who are on the ground level, who are in the trenches, who are doing the hard work? And this is courtesy of who do I see this saying this, that the administrators. This is important. But what's your take on this, Doc?
Yep, I have a couple thoughts about that. One is we have a tendency to think about things as this one piece of pie that everybody can only have slivers of. And it's such a scarcity oriented model. There's enough money in this country for us to actually get really serious about paying all of our educators fair and equitable wages. And so I don't get in a lot of conversations about, should we take this money from Peter to pay this money to Paul? I want to talk instead about how do we actually create the kind of financial systems that are stable, that are not rooted in your family only has this community and they only have this tax bracket, so you only get this. How do we actually create a real financial model for our schools that allows all of our educators to have what they need, all of our kids to have what they need, and allows this country to thrive?
There it is right there. Tiana brought that piece up. Tiana said teachers can be paid well if we cut back on administration. And apparently Kimberly said, hell no.
Let me the audience as to why I say that. So when people look at an administrator's salary and it's significantly higher than a teacher's salary, here's the reason why. Most teachers can get extra pay for tutoring. So when you had mentioned, people that have made the $100,000 mark, well, probably because they got paid extra for tutoring. They got paid extra for different activities. So when I was a teacher, if I chaperoned a dance, or if, certain things that I did extra, if I volunteered to sub another teacher's class, all of those things come with extra pay. When you're an administrator, that's your salary, period. So the extra hours that teachers do, they get compensated for that. The extra hours that we do as administrators, there is no compensation. So when I was an administrator, I was required to attend the football games. I was required to attend these particular basketball games, to attend meetings outside of the normal school day. I was required to do those things. There was no change to my salary. In the summertime, I was required to put in a couple of weeks as the administrator on duty. For a number of years, there was no extra compensation to that because it was built into my schedule. So a lot of times people look at administrators, they're getting paid so much money. We're putting in so many hours. I actually had someone that did the breakdown and said that actually our hourly wage, if we broke it down as an hourly wage, our hourly wage was like $10 or $12 an hour. So that's a fallacy that they're getting paid so much money, but they're not doing a lot. We're putting in so many hours if you're an administrator, let me just say this. If you're an administrator worth your salt, if you're doing your job, which I consider myself to have been that administrator that did their job. So I put in a lot of time.
A lot of time away from your family. And more importantly, you have to really qualify yourself. If you're especially talking about as a principal level, hell, let's talk about at the district level, where if you're the superintendent of a school system, that's a lot of time. That's not light work. You know what I mean? That is a lot of time. Go ahead, Corinne, got 30 seconds.
I just want to acknowledge quickly, Cindy D in the chat says administrators have to teach 10 years to even be an administrator. I wish. That is not the case, sis, in a lot of places. One of the schools I worked in, one of the best places I would say ever in my career, where I actually love walking into work every single day. My second year, we got a new principal who only had like 6 years of teaching experience. And it just made the foundation and the culture of the school just go in a wastebasket. I'll just put it that way. So I wish, that administrators did have more classroom experience prior to getting into administration. It would definitely help with how they support their teachers and staff within the school setting, but that's just not the case. And I also just want to add on quickly to everything that Kimberly mentioned. That was one of the reasons, honestly, why I wasn't really too interested in becoming an administrator. My friend was like, hey, we could do it together. And of course, the thing is more money, but I'm like, okay, it's not always about the money, even though, yes, but like your time, you got to show up outside of school hours. Are you going to be at the homecoming football game or the baseball game next weekend? So those are all things to consider. Everyone has their responsibilities accordingly as far as administrators and teachers. And the last thing I'll say, even with guidance counselors, last county I worked in, a lot of even the teachers had this perception that guidance counselors made more money, but on the salary schedule, they are teachers. The only difference is a lot of them just had the master's degree to be guidance counselors, but depending on the step or the levels, which you'll see a lot of those teacher salaries look like in various states, you're considered a teacher and you're getting that teacher salary. So I just wanted to add all of that.
And Cindy said, Corinna, that's the case in her state. That is the case. That's so right. You're talking about state by state, requirements. And to your point, Kimberly, you're absolutely right. It's a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of training that has to be put into it to even serve on that level. Dr. Barbara, we thank you so much for being with us. How can people get more information about TFA, the work that you're doing with being Chief of Equity and Belonging?
Absolutely. I am happy to have had an opportunity to be with you all and be in this conversation. It's so important. Folks can reach us at teachforamerica.org. On that page, you can find out more about what we're up to. You can find out about things like the School Leaders of Color Conference, where we're not only increasing diversity, but really creating spaces where our teachers have an opportunity to come, to be together, to be safe, to plan, to dream, and to get even better at their craft of teaching our children. Thank you so much for having me today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Doc. We truly appreciate you. And thank you so much for the work you're doing for the culture. Thank you. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about how one teacher of the month was fired for a rap career and how she has been trying to battle to clean up her name. We'll talk to you about the story of Dominique Brown in Detroit. Stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys. This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sisters, Kimberly Morrow, Corinne, and Denise. Let's keep talking about teachers, y'all. First, that was a great conversation we had with Dr. Barbara Logan.
It was.
Great conversations, and I'm so happy that she was able to join us today. And the three of y'all and this guy, I can join in as well because I.
What was that about? You were saying you didn't want to be a teacher, Farajii? Or
you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. You want to hear? All right, very quickly. My mother had told people when I was very, very small as a child. She said when he grows up one day, he's going to be a teacher. Now, this is when I was a baby, so I didn't know. And God bless my mom. So it's like when and I never officially got into the classroom, but now it's like, yeah, Mom, I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher.
You are. You don't have to be in the classroom. You are a teacher.
Yeah. So that's always kind of been that vision has always been over my head, like teaching in some way, shape, or form, in some capacity, sharing knowledge with other people has been part of my path. And so it goes to show you that when your parents put certain things out there about you, that you could be following their path. So put the great things on your children. But yeah, like I've thought about it. Even here, on a college level, not necessarily back in high school, but on a college level, I said, maybe I should, be an adjunct professor. You know what I mean? Talking about certain things. But yeah, I definitely have thought about it. It seems so rewarding, and I have done it when we have done social justice camps and those type of network, workshops and stuff. I've done youth leadership development workshop and everything. And I'm in front of the classroom, you're talking about 20, 30 young people in the classroom. who want to be there. Now, that's the thing. They wanted to be there because they know they were going to get something from it. But at the same time, there was still some challenges because you're talking about shifting people's thinking from seeing themselves from one place to go to another. So there were some challenges, but I would say it's highly rewarding. And of course, you know, I just have a huge love, Near as a teacher and everything. So it's just like huge. I had nothing but respect for anybody that's in the classroom, and especially if you're doing a great job. If you're doing a great job, if you're touching people's lives, if you are empowering and inspiring these children, by all means, you got my full support. It is not easy, and I think someone said it in the chat. That is not a job for the weak-hearted. It's not like, oh, I couldn't be a chef, so let me just go in the classroom. Like, that is a calling to me. That is a calling. That is a calling.
Would you mind if I just?
No, go ahead, by all means.
So my grandfather, the one I told you about before, who served in World War I, he was a graduate of Lane College, and he was a teacher. All of his daughters became teachers, and many of his grandchildren, to include myself, and I want to talk about two of my cousins, his grandsons, James Morrow in Georgia and Clausy Mighton in Arkansas, and it has been their careers. So both their mothers were teachers, their grandfather, and it's been their career. One became a principal. So there are Black men out there who love this profession. It was a calling for them, and they are doing very well. Yes, absolutely.
Well, here's a story I think that we should take a look at, which is the story of a former teacher of the month. Her name is Dominique Brown. She's a teacher in the Metro Detroit area, a U.S. history teacher. She apparently was fired from her Taylor Preparatory High School job in October of 2023 after a student's parents became aware that she's a rapper. Now, according to local news and reports, when she wasn't doing her day job as a teacher, she had a rap career under the moniker Drippin' Honey. I don't know. Now, look, I pulled up. I don't know if, and I want my team to tell me, can we play her video just a little bit? Because it's a little explicit, though. I ain't gonna hold you. It's a little explicit. Here it is. This is Drippin' Honey. That's her in the red hair. Take a listen.
Baby going crazy like the 80s. I put it on the floor and I dare bitch to take it. Niggas running around the city. Owe me money, shit is silly. Buy my money just like 50 hoes. Mad, I got the power and the juice now. Been talking shit, I'm from the 48219. This nigga texting me, but I ain't never got the time. He asked him how I'm doing, bitch, I'm always on the grind. I'm just getting started if a nigga think I'm lying. The money's where my mind is. Got that raw honey, you can find me with a high vet. Real, recognize real, who the fuck is y'all? Get that nigga play and I watch him drop the ball. Niggas wanna blame me, how the fuck you fall? If my back against the wall, run it up till I can't no more. I ain't no hoe, I'm out the dough. Switch the stakes in the foe, but my eyes look at her.
Wow.
May I?
Kimberly said, Farajii, may I? Go ahead, Kimberly.
Okay. And I read her stuff. I read what you sent us, and I read her post. And I'm sure she's a very professional teacher. But here's the thing. I don't know about her state, but I know in the state of California, there is a morals clause in our contracts that we do have to sign. And so, because we are to be held to a higher standard. Again, I don't know about Michigan, but in the state of California, when we get our teaching certificate, there's a morals clause, and it really says that we are held to a higher standard. And depending on the district that you sign with, it's in that contract you sign as well. So, you know, I am always in support of our Black teachers that I feel were discriminated against. But on this particular case, thing, I can't co-sign this. I cannot. I'm sorry. I cannot.
Yeah. I'm not mad at it.
I cannot.
You know what? I just think that To your point, Kimberly, I guess there is a moral clause and it depends on where you live. Now, I would like to raise the question, do we think that sis would still have her job if she did not have these explicit lyrics in her music? Or is it just the fact of the matter that, you know, she's on YouTube? Now, I would like to unpack this a little bit more. Like, what was the essence of them saying you're fired? Is it because she did not disclose this, you know, while teaching and to your point too, you mentioned in the article, a parent presented this information.
One parent.
And she also, one parent. And she also mentioned that she had a lot of parent support with this rap career, which is interesting, as well as the students. Now, it is, I don't know how it would feel. I don't know if I want my students seeing me on YouTube. I remember being on spring break and I run into one of them in the mall or something like that. I got like my spaghetti strap on or something, and they're calling my name. And, you know, when they see me eating like, you know, stuff like them, like Chick-fil-A, they're looking at me like I'm an alien, Farajii. I don't know how it is to then be seen on YouTube in the video. So I'm just wondering why. I don't know. I'm kind of ambivalent about this. I see the reasoning of why they would fire her, but I'm not really on the side of what is right and wrong, because y'all know me. I gotta unpack this thing a little bit more. Like, what's the morality clause in her state? You know what I'm saying?
That is, you know what? And I'm glad, Kimberly, you brought that up. Kimberly is hot as hell right now. She is hot. I can't even get to the segment. I keep looking at her face. She just like, she is hot. She is a damn embarrassment. No, but I'm glad that, Kimberly, you brought up the morality clause, but it does show, like, that's a good question. Is it because she's a rapper, or is it because of what she raps about, right? Now, of course, this is based on a report. It says one parent did this. One parent said, look, this is unacceptable. Lana in the chat said, either you're going to be a teacher or you're going to be sexy red, but you can't be both.
Thank you. Thank you. And if that one parent showed that video to the principal, that's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
But how, let me ask you a question though, Kimberly, and we got to take another quick pause. This young lady, her name is Dominique Brown, y'all. She's in the city of Detroit. She was the teacher of the month.
Yeah.
She was teacher of the month. So either the standards of becoming teacher of the month is very low, or she really is doing some great things in the classroom outside.
And were there even levels to this?
Probably doing very good things in the. Oh, I'm sorry, we're talking over each other. I'm sorry,
Kimberly. No, I was just saying quickly. I'm like, were there levels to this? Like, you know, was she automatically fired once the parents showed the YouTube video, or was it a matter of like, you know, you can't do both? And there was some, you know, I don't know if we got all the pieces to the puzzle, y'all. I just want to know what led up to the firing. I mean, I can't imagine it, unfortunately, that the parent would have came in here. Your teacher is twerking on YouTube, and then they were like, "All right, you fired." But
no. Here's what she said. Here's what she said. Let's put up quote 3 real quick. Lisa. And I'm gonna just share this, and then we got to take a quick pause. She said the first meeting was with my dean and my principal, and they were just telling me, "Hey, a parent said they seen your social media and that you're a bad influence because you're a rapper." Now, she believes she is being discriminated against. She continually asked for the complaint against her in writing, but to no avail. She requested that the complaining parent visit her in the classroom to see how professional and exceptional she is at her job and how she goes above and beyond for her kids, even buying them food when needed.
Okay, again.
Let's take a quick pause. I want to take a quick pause. And let's take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation about how a teacher of the month has officially been fired for her rap career, and she's trying to clear her name. Stay with us. The conversation continues on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys. This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sisters, Coretta Denise and Kimberly Morrow. We're talking about the big story of former Teacher of the Month, Dominique Brown, who performs under the pseudonym Drippin' Honey. She was a U.S. history teacher at Taylor Prep High School in Detroit, and she was fired in October of 2023. For the past 5 months, let me give y'all some more details on this situation. For the past 5 months, she said she's been in meetings with administrators trying to clear her name, trying to fight for her role and all of those things. Well, that video that we showed you, this video was filmed in February of this year, and I had to dig a little deeper. It includes some of her old students.
At that point, we're kind of at the end of the road. It's like
it includes some of her old students. So this was like a response video to all of that stuff that she was going through, and she just had a video and bop bop bop, and wanted to respond the way young people respond today. They take it to the video, they take it to social media, they put it in a song.
She made this video, it was after she was fired?
It was made in February of this year. She was fired in October of 2023.
So this was like a response video.
Yeah.
She got some of the old students in there to show like the support and the camaraderie.
Right. She's from there. She's from there, Corinna. She's from there.
Got it. Well,
why is Kimberly? Wait a minute. Why is Kimberly so quiet? I'm trying to understand. Kimberly, talk to us. What's going on?
And this is where I feel like my age and my generation kind of takes.
That's another point.
Here.
Yeah.
Because, and this is one of the things that I was starting to see when I was, still in the traditional school setting, that a lot of these, at the time, it was more millennial. So she seems like she might be a Gen Z, or I don't know. But anyway, the younger people coming in, their professional, the way they think is just so different. Gen Xers kind of think more like baby boomers, and we take professionalism a lot differently. So I started to see a shift in the way teachers were acting and responding to things. And for that generation, it's like, for them, that's okay. But at some point, this is still a profession that, again, most states have some type of morals clause, and it has been established that teachers do have to adhere to a higher standard. So I don't understand why she would think that was okay to respond in that way when she's still trying to get her job back. Now, going to I don't know if it was a school district, I don't know if it's a charter school, a private school. I don't know what type of school that Taylor Preparatory is. I don't understand how they did not allow her an opportunity to correct the situation, or if they did, like Corinna said, there are some things some unknowns. I know for the public school district where I was, and the way tenure works in the state of California, if you're a tenure teacher, there are different steps that have to take. If you're a non-tenure teacher, we can go in and release you without cause. So there are things that we don't know, but I'm looking at it from a different generational standpoint, where in my eyes, that is unacceptable. It's unprofessional. She probably was a dynamic, wonderful teacher in her classroom, but I don't know. I don't think that teachers should be responding to their situations in that way. I don't think that's the most professional way to respond.
This was the last. This was. I mean, but look, and I think, and I hear you, Kimberly, and I think that there is so much to, like, so many different layers to this particular case, because back to your point, generational, this is a generational response, right? Whereas back in the day, even folks my age or older, might say, oh, we're going to take it to court, or we're going to take it in a different way. This generation is saying, oh, I'm going to take it to the court of public opinion. I'm going to take it to TikTok. I'm going to take it to social media, right? And this is what institutions, whether it's the school system, any profession, is going to have to kind of be prepared for, because people are going to air their grievances. Look, and I think the rise of social media, the rise of like YouTube and everything, is because people feel like they don't have a voice. They don't have a place to really vent, right? Especially when it comes to major institutions like a school district or to the powers that be. So folks go to social media, and guess what? Social media welcomes that type of stuff. We want to hear people's problems, to the point that it's like it becomes the thing. Now, does it guarantee that anything will change? No, it doesn't necessarily do that, but it does bring awareness to some things, and it takes that person and catapults them to another level. You know what I'm saying? This is what one of the things that our sister Dominique Brown said. She said, quote, "My outside life should not be grounds for termination when it does not interfere with my ability to fulfill my responsibilities as a teacher. My dedication, professionalism, and passion for education have always been unwavering, regardless of any personal pursuits I may have."
Oh, Farajii, one thing quickly that I recalled reading the article earlier today. She did say that she specifically asked for this to be in writing, you know, the reason for her termination, to no avail. So that's why I'm ambivalent, because it's like, well, okay, what are the grounds for actually firing her? You know, it's not, so that's what I'm kind of trying to raise a point to right now. And the fact that they have refused to give it to her in writing, and just on a personal note, I have been in that position where I'm like, you know, I would like to have this in writing, please. And I've had to ask more than once, why do I have to do that? You know, so I think that raises an eyebrow or two to the
yeah,
school.
I think so too.
You know, the young woman being in a situation where she's not responsive, you know, with the video with her former students. So I think, you know, there's something wrong on both sides here. That's concerned, like, and to be clear why she was terminated.
There's no due process.
Well, again, I'm speaking for California. I don't know about Michigan.
Right.
But if it's similar in the state of California, if you are a tenured teacher, you are correct. You would need a reason. If you are untenured, you have no tenure, I can say you're gone. I don't have to provide cause. So again, I don't know those details. I don't know those details. I'm telling you, if she were a teacher here and I was her principal and I told her we're letting you go, what is the reason? No cause. That is a legitimate reason. That's if you are not tenured, I do not have to put anything in writing. I do not have to give you a reason. So again, I don't know that state's situation, but I will tell you here, no cause.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Kimberly, because it's one thing to give a reason, but I think just now what I was speaking to is just to have it officially in writing to say, as of X date, you are terminated from such and such school. It sounds like she didn't even get that. But what you're saying specifically to California is that you don't even have to give that. So it really is a matter of...
And that's sad, though. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't like that.
But Farajii, let me tell you why. This is what I was told. Because when you get into a reason, then it's, did you give them a way to correct it? Did you do this? Did you do that?
Well, that's due process.
You're putting yourself in a situation. But for non-tenured teachers, and tenure becomes after the second, I think you have to do 2 years to get your tenure. So within those first 2 years, it's sort of like a probationary period. So it gives the school an opportunity where if they see that you're not a fit, and I've had that conversation where I've had a teacher try to get me to tell her a reason, you know, well, why?
That's I think that is,
I don't have
but
to give you a reason.
I mean, I hear that's the policy and I'm not disputing that, Kimberly. I'm just saying that's still not fair because you know the ins and outs of the violation, but you can't explicitly tell me why, you know, what rules have I violated? Because suppose I'm trying to go into the next school, or suppose I'm trying to get into another position, right? And it's like, nope, we don't have to tell you. That kind of sounds like that doesn't sound fair.
And I mentioned that too, because at the time I was an assistant principal. I wasn't even a principal. And I said that to the principal. I was like, well, it seems like I should be able to tell them so they'll know. And he said, do not do that, because then you open us up to litigation.
Well, but you're talking about somebody's livelihood here.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
I get it. And I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just stating.
And I hear you. Hey, I'm like Brian Christian. Brian, you said, wow, really? I would want a reason for getting fired explained to me, not no reason. I mean, and I agree, because it's not unsatisfying. You know what I'm saying? That is completely unsatisfying. Like, and and going back to what you're saying, first thing, if this complaint was submitted anonymously, that's one. This complaint was submitted by only one parent, that's two. And then you're talking about, well, what part of the rules and regulations that I violate that was not made clear? That's number three. So you mean to tell me that I'm gonna lose my livelihood because somebody can just say something and then I'm gone without me defending myself, without me understanding what the nature of my violation is in comparison to the policy of the school? Like, come on, man, I'll take them to court.
One more question. How long has she been a rapper? Was she a rapper before she became a teacher? You know, she could have had stuff.
She said that. She said that. Look, hey, real quick. She said that. She said that. She started teaching in August of last year. She said, it is worth noting that when I was hired as a teacher, my involvement in the music industry as a rapper did not hinder my candidacy. I was judged based on qualifications, experience, and potential to positively impact the lives of my students. Somebody's trying to cover their ass because they didn't do the necessary research. They didn't think about it.
Like, you know, so we got to be fair in that retrospect, right? Because if she had art, this was her career before she became a teacher, then it's like, what happened with the background check? Like, it's like, why didn't that happen? So I think you're right, Farajii. There could be some covering up there. I just think it's just a matter of, do we fully evaluate the case on both sides of this?
And she got Teacher of the Month. So wait a minute. You mean to tell me all of the submissions for Teacher of the Month, and they say, okay, we're going to give it to Dominique Brown. Nobody says, no, let's just make sure she's on the up and up. Nobody. You can go to her social media page and see she's a rapper. Now,
and if she's had a good evaluation, she got Teacher of the Month. Obviously, she's doing something good in the school. So I just raised the question, like, despite whatever, methods, or for lack of a better word right now, rules and regulations they have in place, did she have an opportunity to say, well, you know what, you're going to have to step away from this? I just wonder what all led up before it was just firing. And then why did she even respond the way that she did? She could have been in negotiations with them from before. Maybe something went awry, and then sis was like, all right, I'm going to drop this video on y'all. There's just so many other things.
There's a lot of questions. Hey, that just goes to show you that, when you work for certain places, you do have to be mindful of the rules and regulations. You got to be mindful of things that could be held against you and things that could be for you. Dominique Brown is no longer in the classroom. I'm sure she's going to continue to make music. But this is another moment that the teaching profession, the industry, can look at itself and say, we got to do a little bit better. I understand that the lyrics might be problematic. I understand that you don't think that, your child's favorite teacher is a rapper. But at the end of the day, that sister still should be respected enough to get some sense of due process in this whole process. Even if nothing else, she should have said, you should take down, we're going to give you a warning. And then once you get past this warning, we're going to let you go. Whoever that parent was is an influential person. Whoever that parent was is somebody that must give money to the teacher, to the principal, to the school. It's an influential person. Because not one, you mean to tell me one complaint, but then you got other teachers who got multiple complaints and still in the classroom. Man, come on. Get out of here with that. Come on, man. Stop throwing this little sister under the bus.
Farajii, but they're probably tenured. It is so hard.
I get it.
It is so hard to remove a tenured teacher.
There's a lot of nepotism that happens too.
Oh, I get it. I totally get it. All right. Let's take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about Carlee Russell. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. For our final conversation, let's talk a little bit about Carlee Russell. Y'all remember Carlee Russell, the sister who back in July of last year created a whole situation about her being abducted. She was gone for 2 days, only to find out that she made the story up about seeing a baby on the side of the road, then being forced into a truck, and that whole situation, and how Alabama actually put a lot of time and energy and effort and money to make sure to see if they can find her. And then it ended up that she made this whole thing up. Well, to yesterday, I think it was, she had us admitted in court that it was determined that she was found guilty. And she said that she, quote, made a grave mistake while trying to fight through various emotional issues and stress. And that's what led her to create this hoax about her fake abduction. As a result of that, folks, she is required to pay the Hoover Police Department nearly $18,000 in restitution, along with 100 hours of community service, 12 months of probation, and continued mental health counseling. That's a lot. However, Chief Nick Durzis in Alabama, in the county that she's in, said that the restitution money is barely a third of the almost $50,000 worth of resources that law enforcement used while searching for her. And they're saying that he's very disappointed. She got the jail sentence that was suspended, so she won't spend any time in jail. And she said she got the 100 hours of community service, $17,800 of restitution, which is really probably about a third of the money that was spent, and then some mental health counseling. And so Chief Durzis is looking to advocate for a stiffer penalty against those who file false reports, and to make it from a misdemeanor to a felony. I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen, y'all. I knew this was going to happen, Corinna. I knew this was going to happen, that because of what that Black sister said and what she did, and the county that she's in, the state that she's in, as a result of that, she created a precedent for a stiffer penalty, for much more strict laws. Talk to me, Corinna. I know this is something you were very passionate about. Let me just share this very quickly. Alabama lawmakers are looking to change the punishment, y'all. So if this happens in the future, the punishment will be more severe, according to State Bill 2024, SB 24. It proposes that falsely reporting a kidnapping charge change from a misdemeanor to a Class C felony, which could carry up to 10 years of jail time, folks. 10 years. Now, Chief Durzis said that he has spoken to the legislation and he hopes to get the bill passed soon. He said, I think we're well into that now, and I think that's going to come into law in October. So if anyone pulls these shenanigans again, there'll be a stiffer penalty. Man, oh man, damn.
I mean, I think some folks have pulled shenanigans like that before, and maybe it just wasn't as magnified as Carlee Russell. But unfortunately, I will say this, and just to wrap it up quickly, we already know, like, got to make an example out of us, you know, the Black folks. And unfortunately, Carlee's decision created this segue into them saying, okay, now another reason, another impetus for us to go ahead and change the law. So it doesn't pan out well. And I think that was a lot of our upset when we found out that this was a made-up story, because a lot of us were rooting for her in the beginning, like, we need to find her. And we always talk about how Black women, you know, are like the most disrespected, forgotten when it comes to cases like this. And it's just so unfortunate. And, you know, I hope sis learned her lesson. You know, we got to be more mindful, especially how we move in the world, particularly of who we are and what we've been through and what we're still going through. And we just see now, they're going to Alabama. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that in maybe other states, especially our southern states. You know, they kind of tend to mirror each other. So, man, Carlee, yeah, we got to make better decisions, better choices. But yeah, Farajii, I'm not surprised. Kind of new.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Kimberly, are you surprised or what?
No, I'm not surprised. But you know what? I would like to say kudos to her for taking responsibility. I mean, she could have went in there, pleaded not guilty and dragged this out, but she took responsibility. So I give her that. I'm very upset that she lied about it to begin with. And I understand why they were frustrated with the process and with her sentencing. But you know, Farajii, I'm about redemption. And so I'm thankful that she at least acknowledged the error of her ways and didn't try to double down on it. So,
Yeah.
and I'm sad that they're going to do this. I wish they would put that much energy and effort into passing those types of laws when it comes to people filing false reports on Black people, calling the Black child selling water. You know, I would like to see that same energy going into these people making false claims, calling the police.
I agree, but this is Alabama.
Yeah, and those things happen in Alabama.
And that's what I'm saying. And Brian Christian is on the same page as you, Kimberly. He said, can this new law be used against cops who lie on their reports?
In our imagination.
Right.
You know, get our collective power and push for it and put people in to make it happen. But yeah.
No, it's not going to be used against them. No. But we know it's a double standard. The sad part about it is that, you know, I really feel for the sister. I really do. It's just sad that our issues, when we mess up, it becomes institutionalized. It becomes the foundation of policy that leads to more disenfranchisement, more, you know, abuse come from the powers that be. So that's the thing. And I think that, you know, if nothing else in this country, in Black America in 2024, Kimberly and Corinna, we got to understand that as much as some of us try to disassociate ourselves from our people, we like, no, I'm not like one of those Black people, blah, blah, blah. By the system standard, you are still seen as part of the larger group. So anything that any one of us does affects all of us. It's just very simple. It's very simple. And I'm always surprised to hear that, man, I wonder why they treat the sister like this or why they treat the brother like this. Because we are disenfranchised. We are the marginalized ones. It's not about one individual. And there is a double standard. But at the end of the day, we, as Black folks in this country, it just goes to show us you cannot separate yourself from your people. And we try to do it every day. We try to do it with our social status, our money, the place that we live. We try to get up out the hood and try to disassociate ourselves every day. So that way we can be judged according to a different standard. But hello, hey guys, it's 2024. That's not happening. So if Corinna, if you do something, Black women, Black men gonna take the hit. If I do something, Black women, Black men are gonna take the hit. If y'all see it. Y'all see it. Y'all see it. Am I wrong on this though?
Unfortunately.
Sadly, you're not. You're not.
I mean, I don't see it. I don't see it, but it's unfortunate. I'm glad this sister finally admitted. She said she has some emotional issues. I hope she gets some, but I know that the state of Alabama is going to throw the, I would leave Alabama if I were her. I would leave Alabama.
Well,
like she don't have no children.
It's just a blueprint being laid out for everything. So like I said, it's just a matter of who got next. So it's like,
man, they're gonna make a whole policy about your mental health situation, a policy that may hurt more people in the coming months, right? They're gonna change it from a misdemeanor to a Class C felony. I would leave the state of Alabama at this point. So it sucks. But we can't run away from how our actions could affect our people, right? And it just goes to show you we can't separate ourselves from that. We definitely can't separate ourselves from that. All right, Kimberly, Corinna, I appreciate y'all both for joining me always on Fridays. I didn't have to bring out my hazmat suit, Corinna, so thank you for sparing just a little bit part of my skin.
So welcome, Farajii.
I appreciate it. I hope y'all have a great Friday. Hope y'all have a fantastic weekend. And God willing, we will reconvene sometime next Friday and chat with one another. So thank y'all so much.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Appreciate y'all. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me as well. I thank each and every one of you. Big shout out to Kimberly Fulcher. Kimberly, thank you so much for being another great donor for our network. There we go. Kimberly put something in the pot for us. And so I thank you so much, Kimberly, for doing all of that and being a part of the conversation. Big shout out to the Online Culture crew for making today's show so great and for your ongoing support. Make sure y'all go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network, and we would love to get your support and connect with you. Also, follow me, yours truly, at The Real Farajii on Instagram and at Farajii on X. I would love to connect with you there. And of course, we want you to stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. And I see you, Danny Piku. Thank you so much for being another donor for the Bring the Phone fan club at a level 1. Danny, thank you so much getting his donation in at the end of the show. Truly appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. All right, folks, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend. Peace.